Truth, logic, action, power. It's the GreggHoush show here on New Revolutionary Radio. From the Leonard School in Malden, Massachusetts, Gregg and company are here to bring a sense of ethics to your news. Whether it's politics, activism, or current events, we always seek to inform and never to deceive. Let's start the show.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the GreggHoush show, episode 16. With me tonight is our co-host, Kayla.
You didn't say wonderful again.
Wonderful co-host, Kayla.
Yeah, that's me.
And our other co-host who seems to
Mac Daddy.
be regular here.
It's the Mac attack. He's back in Mac. He's Return of the Mac.
All of that and more. So tonight we are going to be talking about Donald Trump Jr., who is possibly the stupidest person ever. We are also going to be talking about the possible incoming director of the FBI, Christopher Wray. The healthcare saga at this point, it's kind of like a soap opera. And
like
of course,
swamp monster.
Net neutrality is up last, but there's a lot of good stuff to talk about on that one. So let's just dive right into this wonderful stupidest person ever story, where
is it a doozy?
Where Donald Trump Jr. is accused of breaking what kind of will turn out to be only maybe some federal elections laws and not necessarily treason, which I would love, but
let's back this up for
maybe accused by his own words.
Yeah, he tweeted his own accusation.
The thing is the accusations come in, and everyone starts talking about what's going on, and he just owns up to it, like, yeah, that's what happened. What's the problem? And then everyone's like, no, here's the real big deal, and he's like, oh, here's the emails, and he just dumps them. And I love that, like, the response from the reporter who broke this
was amazing.
And then was fighting to get those emails and everything else for so long was on Twitter. I worked on this story for a year, and he tweeted it out. And, as someone who has made a little bit of an attempt at some journalism here and there, I got to say that's a wonderful thing and a horrible thing, both at the same time, because I'm sure the journalist is sitting there thinking, if I just asked a year ago, would he have just given those to me?
Well, it's very similar to another of his tweets from that same chain of tweets where he tweeted out, I don't think it ever occurred to journalists to just ask one of the Trumps for proof of collusion. In retrospect, that feels nearsighted.
I know. What I love about this is, the fact that, in his statement, too, in his tweets, because I saw this actually, unfold in real time. I just happened to be not working at work on Twitter, like a great employee, as it was getting, and it was, I think I saw it 5 minutes after he had tweeted it out, and I quickly rushed to save all the photos because I didn't know that you never know, right? And in his statement, he was like, the fake news media and the New York Times want to run fake stories against me, so I'm gonna release all the emails that corroborate their story.
It's mind-blowing.
It really is. And the content of the emails, holy shit.
He didn't know what the meeting was going to be about.
It only was in an email with the subject line, Russia, Clinton, private, and confidential.
Right, but he said very specifically that he didn't scroll all the way to the bottom of this 4-page email. He only read the first part.
He just happened to be replying throughout the entire 4 pages.
Let's look at first part.
Wait. Forgetting the first part even.
Sure.
We'll go there, but his whole argument that, I didn't read the whole thing, so I didn't know what they wanted, is, unbelievably, just wrong. It's just outright lie. You read the subject of the email before you read the email, and the subject stated Russia, government, come on.
Also, before we even get into the content of the email for a second, let's just take that excuse and think about it for a second, because the son of Donald Trump Jr., gets this email, agrees to the meeting at Trump Tower, has these people come in, and then has this meeting during the election season with Donald Trump's son-in-law himself and one of Donald Trump's top advisors, Paul Manafort.
No, that was his campaign chief.
Exactly. Do you really think it makes sense that someone was like, yeah, I don't know what this meeting's about, but I'm going to bring in all of the other important people anyway.
And
Do you
not to
think
mention,
do you think they would have gone if they didn't? Like
exactly.
Manafort would have never
the
gone
excuse
if it
doesn't
wasn't
even make
for.
sense.
But also, like, at the same time, like, I like how Trump, who apparently has now, like, within the last, like, hour, have said that, like, oh, well, I knew that it was a nothing meeting. So it's like, wait, you knew about the meetings? So Trump originally was saying that he didn't know about the meeting, and Donnie Jr. was saying that he didn't tell his dad about the meeting. And it's like, okay, this is literally like a floor below you, and your top 3 campaign and officials are just missing, and you don't know about it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's not. I mean, one, there's no way he didn't know where those 3 people were.
Yeah.
That's just, I mean, ludicrous for him to think that anyone would believe that.
Especially since we know that it was exactly 1 floor below his office, because that's where Trump Jr.'s office is.
My favorite part about the whole thing is this Goldstone dude, because like they said on the Daily Show earlier this week that like on the day of that meeting, he checked in on Facebook.
He did. Literally, you can find the post of him checking in on Facebook.
Yeah,
that
and
day.
like he just has these like he's a real person, and the photos of him. And like he makes like videos of himself just like being like this whimsical he's almost like the Lorax in a way. Like he's a Dr. Seuss like come to life like character, and it's like I'm like, bro, this guy is the bridge of collusion.
I mean, there is a lot of background there that's very interesting, but we previously we did say that talking about the beginning of the email and then moved on. But then I want to come back to that for a second, because the beginning of the email, supposedly the part Donald Trump Jr. read, is almost worse than the subject line. It starts out, "Good morning. Emin just called and asked me to contact you with something very interesting. The Crown Prosecutor of Russia met with his father, Aras, this morning, and in their meeting, offered to provide the Trump campaign with some official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary and her dealings with Russia and would be very useful to your father. This is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but is part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump, helped along by Aras and Emin. What do you think is the best way to handle this information, and would you be able to speak with Emin about it directly? I can also send this info to your father via Rona, but this is ultra sensitive, so wanted to send to you first."
So if he actually, only read that part, then that's all he needed to read to know
That's
exactly what it was
everything
about.
that matters.
And also,
Literally
I think it's
everything that matters
I
in
think
it.
it's one sentence too.
Yeah, okay, it's like 5, but still,
I
I
don't remember punctuation and like throughout because but yeah, like, and then it's mind-boggling because it's all there in black and white. It is literally spelt out for him, right? And it's spelt out for the world to see now. Literally in black and white.
We're not meaning figuratively here.
No,
Actually,
those are the words.
So,
and now people are like, well, we still don't know. There's no evidence of collusion. What the fuck more evidence do you need?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because there are more emails than just the one, and they actually almost get better from there.
By better, you mean worse.
I do. As we expressly have Donald Trump having this conversation with Rob Goldstone, talking about how they can, when can I talk with Emin? Emin is Emin Agalarov,
the pop star.
Yes, the Russian pop star and son of Putin ally Aras Agalarov, who is a Russian oligarch and, of course, billionaire, and also business partner of Donald Trump.
But also that his father has how many contracts with the Russian government?
Oh,
he's like the top real estate contractor.
Yeah, he's one of the oligarchs.
Yeah, so it's like you can't be in as successful as he is without being in with the Russian government. Like that should be stressed over and over and over again.
And there are a lot more connections than just that. I actually, so it's fun.
Yeah, treason. It's fun for the whole family.
No, but I mean, so for example, the excuse that Donald Trump Jr. tried to use.
Which one?
The first one. The first one about it being about adoption.
Oh, yeah.
So It's funny because his excuse was, did I meet with people that were Russian? I'm sure I did, but none of that was set up, none that I can think of at the moment, and certainly none that I was representing the campaign in any way, shape, or form, and then claimed that it was about adoption. So first, we know he was representing the campaign because he had fucking Kushner
also,
and Manafort in the room with him.
If you weren't representing the
And those
campaign,
emails.
why would you meet with a Russian about a Russian adoptions? Like, in what
Right,
world?
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like, in what world does a private citizen go, yeah, let me talk about sanctions with you?
But the adoptions thing makes it even worse because the whole adoption thing is a result of a fight between the U.S. and Russia over a Russian lawyer, Sergei Magnitsky, who died in prison in Russia in 2009 after trying to expose a situation where Russian officials were taking fraudulent tax refunds and just dispersing them to themselves to the tune of hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And of course, that didn't go so well for him when he tried to reveal that.
Yeah, didn't like a Russian like spy like break into like the hospital and like murder him?
No, he actually died in the prison by being beaten to death in the prison.
There was another one that like was like another guy.
Oh yeah.
That was like, yeah, he was in prison.
Killed with polonium.
Yeah, and then and then he ended up getting like sick or something like that, and like he transferred to the hospital, and that's when like Putin sent like one of his trolls in, and like instead of a doctor treating him, they just injected him with poison.
Anyway, so in 2012, the U.S. passes the Magnitsky Act in response, which it was created specifically to punish the officials involved in this.
And it was specifically named officials, too.
Yeah, it prohibited their entrance to the U.S., their use of the U.S. banking system, stuff like that. So in response, Russia gets mad. Putin specifically calls it an outrage. And in response, Russia prohibited some specific U.S. officials from entering Russia, prohibited Americans from adopting Russian children, and, posthumously convicted Magnitsky of tax evasion. So that seems like it might be a little irrelevant here, but then you find out who the meeting was with, or was with and, organized on behalf
lookalike.
of Natalia Veselnitskaya, who is a Russian lawyer. Now, she's not directly affiliated with the Russian government, but
she's kind of directly affiliated with the Russian government.
Well, if by directly affiliated with the Russian government, you mean that she specifically works for state-owned enterprises and also is the ex-wife of the now Deputy Minister of Transportation, and, has all these other connections. And, also one of her clients is Denis Katsev, who is a Russian businessman and son of an important Russian politician, Pyotr Katsev. And Katsev is interesting and relevant here, specifically because he is the reason that she was in the U.S. for this meeting in the first place. The reason she was able to get into the United States was that she was brought on to represent Katsev, his company, Prevazon, in a case that was being filed by then Manhattan U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara about the Magnitsky affair.
Oh, so she, because I knew she was in court, because she also was in Congress too.
Yes, she is a lobbyist specifically against the Magnitsky Act.
So I know, because she was in the halls of Congress, like I think like the day before the meeting as well. But I didn't know that she was representing on the Magnitsky Act as well.
She represents his company. Was in the U.S. on that case, which coincidentally enough, that case a few months ago, shortly after Trump fired all the U.S. attorneys,
specifically Preet Bharara,
who he'd told that he'd wanted to keep on. On May 12th, that case, the U.S. Department of Justice decided it was going to be settled for under $6 million with no admission of wrongdoing. And in fact, a spokesman for Prevazon's attorneys, John Dillard, called the settlement offer, quote unquote, too good to refuse, and said, quote, it was a surprise.
What?
Good times.
And okay, first of all, let's back us up for a second. This is completely being washed over right now with this whole talks about this meeting. Because it's like we know she's a Russian like government attorney. She's lobbyist for the Magnitsky Act. She's made like some weird like propaganda film about it, right? But no one is mentioning the DOJ happened to just coincidentally dismiss or like essentially dismiss this,
Yeah,
this
as close as they could to dismiss is what they did.
they, without saying the words, like, and like we also know by today, because Jeff Sessions today, who was being court ordered to release, his security clearance form,
SF-86.
but he was due. It was due on the 12th. If he didn't do it or something like that, and so the DOJ released a blank page today that said that asked if him or any of his family members had any connections with any foreign, like,
It was a redacted
The last
page.
7 years.
last 7 years. He marked no.
Which we already,
We already know that is a lie because we know he's had meetings with
multiple.
with
Yeah.
Lavra. Yeah.
Let's get back to Donald Jr. here.
Yes,
Good,
yes.
good old Don Jr. Now let's talk about.
Meanwhile, he still wants to talk about adoptions.
Let's talk about Don Jr.'s now current argument, which is and I quote, "For me, this was opposition research. Someone sent me an email. I can't help what someone sends me. I read it. I responded accordingly." Now, here are all the problems with that statement. One, taking a meeting with someone who's stating that they are working as a foreign government operative is not responding accordingly. Two, as someone working on a campaign for President of the United States, you cannot take material support from a foreign entity like that. This opposition research would be considered material support. It has a value, therefore it is material. And
He can't even directly take money from
that is federal elections law, and it is this is a slam dunk. I mean, he admits to attempting to take opposition research from someone claiming to be representing the Russian government. That is a violation of law.
Yeah, that is a
Simple.
conspiracy to violate the law about contributions and donations by foreign nationals.
His own now current reason for doing it and explanation of the event is still absolutely illegal.
Yeah, it's just mind-boggling that this is his defense. And the part that...
And there's also, like, all the Fox News heads are scrambling to come to his defense, saying, well, anyone would have taken this meeting. There's sitting members in Congress who would say, well, I would have taken this meeting. No, what?
Well, they're also trying to push back now, saying that Natalia Veselnitskaya's admittance into the country was while Obama was still in power. And so it was Loretta Lynch who helped, and it was the State Department who helped get her in and get her, situated to do what she did. And so that's not on us.
Yeah, they're trying to blame Obama, where it's like, first of all...
I mean, they're right. That part isn't on them, but that part isn't the illegal part.
Yeah.
So...
It's like, if she applied for a visa and it got approved, she was legally in the country.
Yeah.
She was in the country because she was a lawyer defending a company in a court case. Like, that's entirely legit.
Yeah.
That's probably why they approached her to be the one to have the meeting in the first place, because she had entirely legitimate business in the country.
And it would have gone unscathed, which it did.
It's utter insanity. I just, if charges don't get filed from this, then I don't think there are ever going to be charges against this family in any way. This right here is a literal smoking gun. If this does not end up being Mueller's smoking gun in the investigation, then I don't know what is.
Or could be, for that matter.
Yeah.
Like, even in principle.
I mean, like, I can understand that, like, they're not going to run to their arrest anyone right tomorrow.
Of course,
right?
it'll take time.
But I mean, like, whether or not they get anything more after this, they might not. But I mean, if nothing comes from this one incident,
there is no rule of law.
At the very least, right now, Kushner, for being at that meeting, should, for, of course, 100 other reasons also, at this point, have his security clearance taken away.
Oh, yeah, he should be forced to resign.
I mean, just the fact that they've lied repeatedly on this subject, I'm not 100% certain on this offhand, but I think that might qualify as grounds for obstruction of justice in its own right, since it involved background investigations for security clearances.
It's also perjury.
Oh,
No.
of course it's perjury, but...
And
No. He never, the only person who actually said no under ooth was Sessions.
No,
All
the
those forms.
The forms are perjury.
Yeah.
If you lie on those forms,
you sign them under penalty of
those
perjury.
forms,
On the forms,
and the
but-
only reason why we even knew this meeting took place in the first place is because Jared Kushner's third attempt at revising his forms for the security clearance happened to just slip in. Oh, we might have taken a meeting on like June 6th or 9th. I don't know. It was really brief, and I don't really know who it was with, but it could have been a Russian. And that's what started it all, because he had to revise it 3 times,
which you're not actually allowed to do at all. Like,
except for 2017 Trumps.
Well, yeah, but I mean, normally when you fill that out, like you get locked out of the system. It's a one-time login. You fill the paperwork out. You press submit. You don't even have access to that computer system anymore. Your only chance to actually correct any mistakes you made, which you don't get a copy of the form you filled out. So you have to rely on, what you hear back. But it's when you have a meeting with the investigators months later after they've done all their digging and are asking you questions like, so why didn't you report this thing? Or, hey, do you have anything you want to tell us? Like, that's normally the only opportunity you get to correct any mess ups you make. And somehow he's filled out this form 3 times now.
Yeah, and if it was anyone else, because like I know in my mother's company, they can have like top secret clearances. They do some military contracting. And my mother sometimes has to fill out for like the lowest level. If she was caught lying, my mother would be in jail. It's like, or if she was like not like truthful in any way, like if she like forgot to mention a family member, she would like, not only would she would at least be fired for starter. You know what I mean? So it's like the fact that it's like you have the highest security clearance in the country, and we know you have lied 3 times by omitting
bare minimum of 3 times.
Yeah, they could be more. It could be more. But it's like we know you've lied 3 times about meeting with foreign nationals, and you still have a job and your security clearance.
It is insane, but I mean, with just how unbelievably stupid these people are, and it's unbelievable because of the positions of power they find themselves in. I just don't understand how people of this level of intelligence are there, but there they are. We're going to hear a lot more of this. This is going to come up.
I have my own little theory.
Yeah.
I feel like the real, like I was telling Mac before the show, I feel like the real M. Shyamalan night twist here is like we're all gonna find out that Tiffany Trump is the smartest one and like set this whole thing up, and now is gonna get everything the family owns when everyone else goes to jail.
I would find that hilarious.
It would be pretty funny.
It would be a great plot twist. Probably M. Night Shyamalan's best hit.
So I figure next week we're gonna talk more about this, as I'm sure he will say a whole bunch more stupid stuff over the next few days.
Maybe provide us some more evidence of
anyone ask Eric Trump to release some of his emails?
Yeah, can we just like start tweeting at them like every day, like, hey, so you got any emails I might want to read?
Can anyone else at the New York Times and Washington Post just like, hey, buddy, we got a copy of your email. You want to test us? You want to prove that we don't have it by tweeting it out?
So let's move on, because I'm sure we will have more for that next week. Let's move on to Christopher Wray, who could become the new FBI director after Comey's firing.
Seems likely.
It seems very likely.
Yeah, they only need
pushback
51, so.
So he's, a longtime person at random, Justice Department, and other legal matters to do with the U.S. government. He's not out of nowhere. They didn't just, pick some lawyer off the street. They got someone who's been around for a while.
They purposely found a guy who got Chris Christie off scot-free during another collusion scandal with Bridgegate, and all the rest of his senior aides have all been pled guilty to
pretty much
conspiracy and are all doing jail sentences. And Christopher Wray was Chris Christie's personal attorney who got him off scot-free.
Yeah, so this is already looking to be a great guy. And then, we have...
Then there's his history.
We have a good history here where John Yoo, former Justice Department official, says that Christopher Wray did indeed get to review the torture memos that, basically said torture's okay.
Because he was one of the senior officials at the time in that position to be writing those memos and reading them.
And Christopher Wray, of course, says, I don't remember doing that, which actually turns out legally to be a valid argument.
It is.
Well, no, the legal phrase is, I don't recall.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is funny how these senior officials and law enforcement agencies
never seem to recall.
They all seem to have memory problems. So why are you in this position, dude? But I loved the Lindsey Graham little sassafras moment there, the little tit for tat. when, basically he read the Johnny Jr.'s emails and he goes, so, is this meeting okay? And Christopher, of course, Stubbs goes, well, I don't know. Goes, you're about to be the FBI director, pal. And I was like, ooh.
Oh, yeah, when you said pal, I was...
Lindsey Graham.
I'm getting the vapors.
Tell
the whole Senate here to call the FBI.
His Senate hearing, yeah, in that, and I quote from Christopher Wray here, to the members of this committee, any threat or effort to interfere with our elections from any nation state or any non-state actor is the kind of thing the FBI would want to know. That was his response to Graham saying...
Which was a greatly scripted response, by the way.
Exactly. That was his response to Graham asking him, should we call the FBI if anyone reaches out to us like this? And on the, the claim of this all being a witch hunt, and I quote, he is, very committed to supporting Director Mueller in the special counsel investigation in whatever way is appropriate for me to do that. So, his answers to all of these questions when listening to him were so well scripted and remembered that I'm just going to guess they were the reason he kept, looking his eyes down, because every one of these answers was written down in front of him by somebody else.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He had the White House already pre-written, Rance Priebus has been trying to keep his job by pre-writing all the answers.
Well,
what's annoying is that, first of all, we shouldn't have a new FBI director.
One.
Starting with that one, because Comey was what? How many years into his 10-year term?
6, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now we're gonna have the Chris Christie's mob boss be in for 10 years. Well, Douche Knuckles and Dumb and Dumber and Jared Cushface just ruin the world.
And by Douche Knuckles, I believe she means Donald Trump.
I thought about asking for clarification about which was which, but then I realized, does it really matter?
They all look like giant douche knuckles.
So the ACLU had a statement on Christopher Wray, and they said, and I quote, Wray's record on civil liberties, from his apparent but unclear role in the Bush-era torture program to his advocacy for the passage and implementation of the USA Patriot Act, to his support for material support prosecutions that have targeted, often unfairly, minorities and the vulnerable, is cause for alarm and requires rigorous scrutiny by the Senate. Now, that's the ACLU being as political as they possibly can. What I read there is, please, for the love of God, don't. This guy should not.
The ACLU has said that about a lot of people. We all said that, everyone said that about Jeff Sessions, and here we are.
And they were right.
Oh, yeah.
But now, one very interesting thing here, and it's certainly something the ACLU isn't unaware of, is that apparently back in the Bush era, when there was the, shall we say, kerfluffle in the Department of Justice about getting approval for torture in the first place, the events led to James Comey threatening to resign along with another member of the DOJ. Well, at that time, apparently Wray went up to Comey privately and said, hey, so rumor has it you guys might be out. If you guys are out, let me know, because I'm on that ship too. So Wray was apparently, even though he was broadly supportive of the torture programs, the specific shenanigans that were pulled were willing to make him threaten to resign as well. So the fact that he's been that guy and the ACLU is still no, is very telling about how they perceive him on all of these other issues that are very important.
Well, now he says that, given those types of decisions in the future, he would absolutely resign.
Of course, he does say that.
How many times have we heard that before, though?
Do we believe him? I mean, and here's another one I quote from that specific Senate hearing. Never allow the FBI's work to be driven by anything other than the facts, the law, and the impartial pursuit of justice, period.
So why wasn't
it's another well-written little statement there.
It is. One that sounds suspiciously prepared.
Indeed. So
the fact that he couldn't tell, when Lindsey Graham was pressuring on the whole, is this and then he even went to the hypotheticals. All right, he was like, all right, let's say Russia wants to help Lindsey Graham get reelected, and they reach out. Goes, do I take that meeting or do I call the FBI? That is a black and white answer.
It's true.
And he couldn't, he stumbled. And Lindsey Graham got frustrated. And it's the fact that he couldn't just look at the Senate in the face and say, call the FBI. And because even if you call the FBI, maybe hypothetically in another world where it wasn't illegal, it's still illegal. The FBI could then be like, hey, it's not actually illegal. Go ahead and take you know what I mean? But you still call the FBI first.
It's insane. And I don't know that they'd ever actually nominate anyone that I would be okay with for FBI director. I just don't think anyone who they would want in that position would be someone I would like. But of all people, I'm definitely unhappy about this nomination.
Well, no, and then the other thing too, and I shame on me for not paying closer attention the last couple of days, but apparently at the same time that Christopher Wray was having a Senate hearing, other judgeship hearings happening. Senator Franken has already issued his statement that he doesn't want either one to confirmed, but one of them is a racist meme maker. So there's just so much shit being swirled
they have the power
around.
Currently right now to stack the deck a lot.
And it's what blows my mind is Don Jr.'s email should basically halt Congress until Mueller's investigation is done, because it's here we have a potential illegal president, which by potential I mean he's an illegal president, who colluded with a foreign government, an adversary, who has helped the Assad regime, who are apparently at war with ISIS with. So how is this not, guilty by association if we're going to play those games? And, and yet they get to stack the deck with, federal judgeships, lifetime appointment judgeships, FBI directors, trying to pass horrific healthcare legislation. All the while,
it's horrible.
We have proof that they have colluded with Russia.
Well, we'll see where the investigation gets. I mean, that's where we are on that. But I do think before we leave this one and, wait for him to actually get confirmed, that good old Orrin Hatch actually deserves, surprisingly, a shout out.
This is something you will probably never hear again.
And that's because during the hearing, he actually made it clear, and really clear, which is also surprising for any senator, that he does not support backdoors and encryption, supports strong encryption, and doesn't believe that weakening of encryption in order to get messages out of various companies' systems like Facebook, Google, Apple, the rest of them is a smart idea. He thinks that we should not do any of those things, that encryption needs to be strong, needs to be stronger. And it blows my mind that Orrin Hatch doesn't want backdoors and encryption.
Yeah, he's one of these super conservative Republican Mormon senators. He's been in Senate forever. Usually anything that involves...
I was not expecting to agree with him on something.
He probably just thinks that Dr. Strangelove is a real thing, and that's why he's probably for encryption. We just I don't want people being able to hack in and shut down every what about my pacemaker?
Zap and purify our precious bodily fluids.
Yeah.
Right. So surprisingly interesting talk from Orrin Hatch, but there we are. Maybe there's someone on the right that people who want to see strong encryption stay around for the future can speak to and can have
rally
as
around?
Kind of. Well, I don't know, because
in that regard,
everything else he stands for,
yes,
I think we're
terrible,
all against. But
if there's one
at least
thing,
on that one.
If you need someone to help you get a bill passed on this one, he might be your man.
I mean, at least he's for something, because apparently, the technology inside the government is very weak.
Yes.
Yeah. It might be one of those things where I've sat there and watched people break into things, and as I watched, I often wondered, why was that so easy? Could you all please just for once put up something that stops them?
Julian Assange has been breaking into the Pentagon since he's been 17.
I mean, there's all kinds of alleged things. He might have gotten in trouble when he was a teenager in Australia, and
but I mean, he's in his 50s.
Well, it has been. I mean, I think he might have stopped doing that a long time ago.
No, what I'm saying is it's been that long that people would be able to break in, and we still haven't.
Oh yeah, totally. The level of security of our government is an absolute joke. I mean, there are systems in place that could have easily caught what was going on with the OPM hack. Instead of letting it go on for a year and a half, and they aren't running any of that stuff, and they don't seem to care.
Well, Orrin Hatch cares.
So that's a good one to know. So let's move on to The healthcare bill. Right now,
The wealth care bill,
we
really?
have gotten a new version of McConnell's bill. And then out of nowhere, right before McConnell releases, Lindsey Graham and Bill Cassidy come up with their own bill and say, let's see which one passes. And now there's dueling bills.
So did they actually propose
Yeah.
draft a bill and propose it?
Yeah, the Cassidy and Graham bill is really interesting because, while I, again, don't support, 90% of the thing, it does basically keep the income or the revenue from the ACA, the Obamacare, at levels that, it already was. But instead of some kind of government system, at the federal level that decides what happens, they're going to hand it all to the states. And in Lindsey Graham's own words, quote, "We're giving the money back to the states. The states can do what they want to do. A blue state can do a blue thing. A red state can do a red thing." And, if their version of healthcare reform actually comes to be, that means, the state that we live in currently, the three of us, Massachusetts here, can basically just keep Mass Health and, maybe possibly strengthen it a little. But what I think is going to be funny here, though, is you have people crossing borders in other countries and whatnot to get, better healthcare in the countries that have better healthcare, right? I think we might end up with, a per state version of that here if the red states,
that already kind of happens with hospitals and stuff like that.
Right, sure. People travel, to Massachusetts to go to Leahy Clinic, or they go to the Mayo Clinic, or all that type of stuff. But I just think with better healthcare systems in the blue states that actually go forward with, offering preventative care and more coverage for pre-existing conditions, that you'll have people in red states realizing what a mistake they've made and actually moving to the blue states simply to get the better healthcare.
That being said,
and that will be strange to watch.
Well, that wouldn't happen because people just don't have the capability of just to up and move. But the other thing, too, is that because I've talked to my state representative on healthcare who's also wrote a comprehensive paid family medical leave bill for Massachusetts. And I asked him, if they do repeal, wouldn't we just go back to our original Mass Health? And he goes, no, we couldn't because it was fully dependent on the Medicaid expansion. So if this does happen, we wouldn't really go back to Mass Health, and it would probably just do the same damage that repealing it and not replacing would do, because if you don't have the federal security behind the healthcare system, then you don't have a secure healthcare system.
There's also another huge problem with having this just done as a kind of by the states as they get around to it sort of thing, where they're all doing it individually without coordination. And that's what happens when you have to deal with issues across state lines. Say someone from Massachusetts gets injured while they're in Texas. How does Massachusetts insurance cover care? Are they covered at all? Do they have to make a deal with Texas so that the hospitals accept?
So that is already a thing. If you're visiting, yeah. So but
we have a federal system that resolves a lot of that.
Yeah, so the essential healthcare benefits basically covers that, which says that hospital trips, ambulance rides, cancer, any type of actual accident, that's what an essential health benefit, coverage mandates. So if it's if you say oh well now there's no if you say take that off the table, now it's no longer a mandate, you no longer have to offer that. Well, now you've got states in Texas saying, well, we actually don't cover hospitals here anymore. That's not an out-of-pocket expense.
Also on top of that, there's issues with dealing with remuneration. That person from Massachusetts is visiting Texas. They have the insurance that will cover them in Texas because it's Massachusetts and we cover that shit. They get injured. The hospital in Texas is functioning under an entirely different legal landscape of what they can charge for procedures, what sorts of
Oh yeah,
billing
they can redo the codes.
Exactly, like you have no guarantee how much they're going to have
and
to
then
pay.
every insurance company of any scale will have to implement systems to deal with each individual state on a completely different. I mean, they don't want this. They've said, please, no, don't
introduces
do that
all
to
kinds
us.
of problems
Yeah,
at like every level of healthcare delivery.
Not a big fan of most of those companies, but on this one, I definitely agree with that argument.
So it's funny here too, because like I made the joke on like Facebook. I was basically saying like the entire healthcare, like all private health insurance, they're like, don't do it. Hospitals, don't do it. Doctors, don't do it. AARP, don't do it. American Medical Association, don't do it. American Pediatrics Association, don't do it. And then you have Mitch McConnell going, yeah, I think I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I think this is what everyone wants. Yeah, I'm really feeling this one. Like, just gonna pull the rug out.
Well, what we have is, the Lindsey Graham, Bill Cassidy bill, but then we also have McConnell's new bill. And his attempt at solving everyone's problem with the bill is to preserve some of the taxes on the wealthy.
Specifically
two of them, and use that money to provide $45 billion in funding to address the opioid addiction problems. And while great, we sure as hell need that money. What we need is just them to actually fix the ACA instead of all these little hacks.
Yeah, and then so medical experts have actually said that like that $45 billion is about like $500 billion short of what the cost of a treatment would actually take. And then the other thing too, it's like it adds on a watered down version of the Ted Cruz amendment, which first it gives full immunity to the Zodiac killer, so that's a little weird. And then it also they're trying to say that they like, because he's like all for like the health the flexible spending accounts, because flexible spending accounts going to solve people's illnesses, even though it's not, it's bullshit. But so they're saying that they add another additional $70 billion in Medicaid or like federal funding for these new like healthcare plans that, first of all, don't have to offer anything. They are a shell plan. So basically it's one of those things that you can say that you have coverage, but it covers nothing. And that $70 billion in the text is counted twice. So it's
another double spend.
Yeah. So in the bill itself, it says like, portions allotted in section da-da-da-da-da, which is the original allotment. So of what they've already, chopped up for the next years. So it's like, okay, so you just redistributed $70 billion from money that you're saying, oh, here's all the money you can use to pay for all those very expensive things.
Look, okay, I had an orange and I divided it into 6 sections. And then I took one of those sections and I added to my orange, and now I have an orange and 1/6 of its orange. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing how math works when you just make it up on the fly.
I just don't see how either of these pass with all of the Republicans that are actually
we've got 2
saying
confirmed no's. Rand Paul, Susan Collins have both said, I don't see how this is. The Nevada governor has come out and said, my understanding of the new revised bill is that it's not new or revised. It's just the same. And so he's come out and said, I can't see how this is going to help. And so as long as the Nevada governor is against it, then we can hopefully think that Heller wouldn't vote against his own state governor.
Heller has seemed pretty reticent on this legislation as it is.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons, mostly involving how extremely vulnerable his seat is.
Yeah. So he's still kind of waffling right now. So call the shit out of him. Right? Call the shit out of him. And also Flake. Apparently the Arizona Senator Flake is another very vulnerable seat that no one's paying attention to.
Yep.
So yeah, call your senators at this point. It's the only way to win this, and by win this I mean just stop them from passing either of these bills.
Yeah, Alaska, West Virginia, Nevada, Arizona, Florida, and the other thing too, we need to, if they do vote for this next week, because apparently they want to bring this up for a vote next week. And the one good thing is if they do bring this up for a vote, is they lose reconciliation for the rest of the year.
Ah, yes.
So I almost kind of want them to bring this to a vote knowing that it's going to fail because that loses reconciliation for the year. And that means nothing they can do. So that tax reform that they're really trying hard on, it would be under filibuster rules. So we really hope that we get the three no's, because then it's dead in the water. They lose reconciliation, and then fuck you to that tax reform that they're going to try.
And on top of those definite no's that we have at the moment, we have like another half dozen Republicans that are pretty firmly in the no camp from what we've seen.
Yeah, like it's not looking great, but
There's
I just
some people
really
on the
hope
fence.
that
There's some people
Yeah.
on the no, but there's enough that it's still not looking like this is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's very close.
Yeah, definitely shouldn't be complacent about it. But
No,
yeah.
everyone still needs to make those calls. So with that one, I mean, basically we're waiting for a bunch more negotiations over the next few days and then possibly a vote next week.
Well, the CBO score is supposed to come out, like, they're saying the soonest it would come out was like the end of the week or something like that, because it's submitted.
Yeah, we
on,
might get it Friday,
Yeah.
like tomorrow. Right.
Just, ugh.
So that's healthcare, which is just as confusing as it was before.
And just, like,
and now
just-
we have two bills to vote on.
Yeah.
and they're both awful.
Both
And without
awful.
any public debate or any amendments or subcommittee hearings, like, ugh.
Yeah, the Cassidy and Graham one came out of nowhere. Everyone was
Even
complaining they're doing this
leadership
in
ops.
private, and then well, yeah, this one was done more in private.
And the other thing too, so this quote unquote revised bill also keeps all that abortion legislation, which is against the rules of reconciliation.
Yes. Because it can
So-
only be budget measures.
Yeah, so it's like the whole idea of doing a healthcare bill under reconciliation is like bananas already. But then again, it's 2017 and facts don't matter. So
Not at all. So let's we'll revisit with the CBO score and possibly a vote next week on that one, and that will be
hopefully
great.
we're not all doomed by the time we record in the
Right?
next episode.
Yeah, I kind of like having healthcare.
Kind of like living. I don't know,
great.
it's a thing for me.
You know, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So yesterday was big ol' net neutrality day. Thanks to Fight for the Future and their Battle for the Net initiative, they got 125,000 websites to participate in a massive online process against the FCC's plan to gut protections that keep the web free from censorship, throttling, and extra fees. Net neutrality is really, really important. And,
Can't stress this enough.
So
and we need net neutrality badly. And right now it is just how everything works. And Comcast and Sprint and Verizon and all these other big companies want to change that. And what they really want is honestly to be able to just make more profits. What they're doing right now is charging everyone for use of the internet. And you're getting charged by them for your monthly internet. And then you can say, use that time to, I don't know, stream Netflix. And well, that's you using the internet you're paying for. And what they're saying is, well, we should be able to charge Netflix to deliver that content to you. So they want to charge on both sides when that's never been a thing.
Or even specifically be able to just be like, oh, well, you want your connection to be able to access Netflix? Well,
That'll
in that
cost
case,
more.
you don't want our basic package. You want our premium package with Netflix Plus.
So I feel like there's we maybe have gone about this whole like the way we talk about net neutrality a little wrong, and by that I mean is like we say net neutrality, and a lot of times people are like think that something's changing, like especially like Fox News viewers, or think that like that
Government's
means,
trying to force.
yeah, like they think the liberal force is trying to change something, and it's like no, we're trying to keep it as it is, like
the way it's always been.
like how you are on 4chan. We want you to stay on 4chan, being a terrible person, but. So
Specifically, stay on 4chan. Don't go anywhere else.
Don't even leave your house. But like, so I feel like, and this is how bullshit the whole free, and culture free speech people are, right? This is a free speech, basic right. What the net neutrality is, we should be saying this is free speech at its core. This is what America is.
Net neutrality is anti-censorship.
It's anti bullshit, And the other thing too, it's like when you look at the companies that are in support of repealing the rules, like you got Time Warner, Comcast, Verizon are the big ones. Comcast and Verizon specifically have been sued by the Obama's FCC for like, you know, trying to basically double charge people. And then they're saying, well, we can't innovate. First of all, I fucking hate when companies say innovate, because I'm like, what are you innovating? You're broadband. You're not an internet company. You're just trying to
We already have slower internet on average per price than almost any other, major country in the world. So
it's like, I feel like, and the fact that like you don't have Fox News Tea Party goers like, you know, throwing a hissy fit over this as a free speech just goes to show how much they don't fucking care about free speech, and how it's only going to be a free speech unless it helps them. And like, I feel like that needs to be stressed. It's like repealing these rules takes away your speech. Like there's no way else to, you know, say like that's Comcast, Verizon, you know.
You're just handing power to corporations to use against you.
They want to limit your speech on the internet.
They want to charge you more. They want to charge the people who give you content more. They're just trying to make a lot more money when they are already more than profitable. And
don't forget, it's not just about like, yes, their goal.
They
also
want to control the speech.
At the moment, it's just about making money. But in principle, what repealing net neutrality does is just give them absolute veto power over internet content.
Yeah.
They can create fast lanes. They can block things.
Yeah, so it's
they
like
can
if
do
you
what
have
they want.
Comcast and you want to go to a Time Warner or an NBC site, oh, well, maybe not.
We decided that's not in our interest.
They're not nice to the president, so we're going to slow it down.
Or not allow you to connect at all.
Oh, it's going to be so slow that you'll never get to it.
So yesterday, this organized protest by Fight for the Future and with all these websites, what would happen is you would visit one of them, and the script that they used was really cool in that, you know, across websites, it would try to only show it to you once. So if you visited 10 websites that had this script enabled, only one would pop up. And when it popped up, it asked you to take part in this protest, to either call your representative, email your representative, and or make a comment at the FCC on this. And thanks to this form, 5 million emails were sent to Congress, 2 million comments were made to the FCC, and 124,000 phone calls were made to Congress.
All in one day?
All in one day.
That's amazing.
So this is, this was an amazing event, and I'm really hoping that they listened. The problem is the current head of the FCC can do whatever he wants.
Because he's a Trump appointee.
And he was put in by Trump. And so he can do this if he feels like it. And so no matter how much we fight back against it, it's still kind of sort of just up to a Trump appointee to make a decision. And I don't know that he's going to listen, but I'm hoping that volume might help.
Well, you know what would be funny? So... and maybe this will happen. I don't know, Google. Maybe you'll listen to this. If it does get repealed, maybe the FCC website won't be able to load fast enough. Or maybe Google will redirect it somewhere the fuck else.
Just remove it from the index.
Yeah.
De-index.
Yeah. You know, it's like there are implications. It just goes to show that, like, how extreme to the right these people have gone, where it's like 125,000 websites, right? It's like, you know, like look at these names that took part of it. It's like you got Netflix, like Spotify, Airbnb, Amazon, which is also called Guardian, Washington Post, or Jeff Bezos' Guardian.
Yeah.
You know, Pornhub, which I love.
Reddit, Twitter, Spotify.
I know Google and Facebook were also against it too. And so it's like you've got the biggest corporations in America protesting repeal of these things, and then you've got a guy not listening and not caring.
And, you know, he's going to cite the public comments that the FCC got on net neutrality, which we know consist of millions and millions of stolen identities from Comcast posting fake comments against net neutrality in the names of real people that the FCC has decided they're not going to do anything about, they're not going to remove. Nope, it's all fine.
Yeah, so what's funny about all those is the way we know they probably did come from Comcast is that some of the people who went on to the FCC website, supposedly, and want net neutrality to be repealed. Well, the only place that email and that phone number and everything still exists is on their Comcast account. In fact, some of them, literally the email address had the word Comcast in it because they created it for Comcast. So yeah, that data came from Comcast. And funnier still, some of them are dead. And they posted comments from their Comcast accounts while dead. Now, yeah, the FCC has said, yeah, but we still have to take those comments into consideration. No, you don't. You can purge them. What's wrong with you? They all happened in a very short period. Knock out everything
they're
from
very
that day.
identifiable.
Yeah, and they're all scripted. Like,
if not, like I'm sure like a
tell.
techie could probably identify all of the dead people like very quickly for you if you wanted to contract that out.
Yeah, so you can tell they're really trying to get rid of net neutrality because it means a lot more money in the pockets of people who will help them all get reelected.
Or just help them cushion the...
Not just the FCC, but the people who, you know...
Or they'll just give them like a board member seat or a CEO position.
Oh, yeah, the revolving door.
Yeah, because it's like they don't actually set the... Like, you know... They don't do these things in these agencies so they can get reelected. They do them so they can have a job once they get bored.
Yeah. People leave the FCC and go into unbelievably competing spaces all the time. Like they'll end up at NBC, they'll end up at Fox, and that should not be allowed.
There's one woman apparently in the FCC, like had at the top, who was a leftover from the Obama administration. I don't know her name. Hopefully she'll stay anonymous so she doesn't get fired. But apparently she has like since come out and said, you know, to keep the rules in place because, you know, she's probably looking at the real facts and the real reality that repealing it does nothing but help maybe 20 people.
Now, what we need to say, really, to kind of close up this talk on net neutrality is that yesterday was great. Yesterday was an amazing event, but it's not over. You can still call your representatives, your senators. You can still post to the FCC.
They're taking comments, till when? It's like the FCC it's a public, the reason why this is happening is because they're holding public comments.
Yeah, public comment.
Until
you can still
I think it's like July 15th or it might be later.
Yeah, but you can still do that today, tomorrow. You can also still email Congress, fax Congress, all the other ways to get to your representatives and get to the FCC. And of course, just share the stuff online. Get it all out there. And that's really the only way you're going to stop this, because in the end, it's really up to the FCC just to decide to do something if they feel like it.
Or they want to censor your speech. Can't stress that enough. That's what they're going to try to do.
So reach out. Make sure everyone knows that we want to keep net neutrality because we're kind of anti-censorship, anti-fast lanes,
Come on, to the anti-PC culture out there, this is the ultimate PC move.
Oh, half of Reddit's gonna disappear if this happens.
Well, to be fair, a lot of those people should probably just disappear. I mean,
you might be right.
You say that, but it's not like the people will disappear.
I know, but I want the physical people to disappear. The Reddit can stay.
All right, everyone. I think this might end up being our shortest episode in a while. Next week we are going to have another guest on. We've got a good guest coming next week. I think everyone's going to be happy. You're going to have to look at the website for that. Once we get confirmation, we'll post it. And we've got another good one coming up the week after. And we're still working on going live. Hopefully, a little more help on the Patreon to help us get there. So if everyone wants to go to the Patreon, maybe we can get to live soon.
You also got to follow us on the Twitter at the GreggHoush Show.
Yeah, we'll play all the fun stuff to get you to our social and whatnot when we're done here. But
like us on Facebook at the GreggHoush Show.
Indeed. Thanks for listening, everyone. That's been episode 16.
The GreggHoush Show was created by GreggHoush, executive produced by co-host Eric Gowrays, and co-hosted by Kayla Avery. Other contributors include producer and writer Anna Jeffrey, co-host producer David McGuffin, and writer-engineer Robert Tortora. Theme music for this show was produced and recorded by Geneva de Colbert. Our interns include co-host Casey McLaughlin, writer-engineer Alec Greeny, writer Maddie Locicero, and associate producer, writer, and announcer William Kennedy. You're listening to New Revolutionary Radio, your call to action. Thank you for listening. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GreggHoush Show and on Instagram at GreggHoush. If you like what you've heard and want to be a part of it, check out patreon.com/GreggHoush Show In exchange for funding our programming, you gain access to exclusive content such as uncut editions of our podcast. We have new episodes every Thursday night. We hope you listen in.